The film Sholay was released in the year 1975 and it is celebrating its golden jubilee in this year. A film which is as relevant today as it was 50 years back. Its story, its characters, its one-liners. This is a movie which has caught the imagination of the Indian film industry right across generations. I saw this movie when I was just getting into college, and I have very, very vivid, sharp memories of this movie. I must have seen it 8, 9 times. And when I was introspecting or reflecting on the movie, what came to my mind, there are a lot of management lessons which can be learned from the film Sholay. Surprising, but there are management lessons. And I culled it out into the top 10 management lessons I learned from Sholay, or what I think is relevant from Sholay. Out of the box thinking. In the film, if you see, in the initial part of the movie, Thakur Baldev Singh, or Thakur as he is called, does not get people from the police or army to apprehend Gabbar Singh. He recruits two jailbirds, small-time crooks for this job. To me, it was an out-of-the-box thinking. Teams and organizations made by people with diverse skill sets. Generally, in organizations, we take people who are clones of each other. But in this movie, this was something very unique. Look at the two main characters, Dharmendra, Amitabh Bachchan, Jai, Veeru. They're as different as they can be from each other in terms of their speaking style, in terms of their passion. And if not, then was, you look at the two heroines of the movie. There is Hema Malini as Basanti, and there is Jaya Bahaduri as Radha. Hema Malini as Basanti speaks 19 to a dozen, whereas Jaya Bahaduri as Radha hardly speaks 10 lines in the entire movie. That makes it click. So, people with diverse skill sets, diverse objectives, and even diverse backgrounds is important in organizations. Every person in an organization is important. Sometimes we feel the CEO is important, the CTO is important, the CXO is important, the chief marketing officer is important. But if you see in this movie, every character had an importance. Whether it was Surma Bhopali, whether it was Angrezon ke Zamane jailer, whether it was Rahim Chacha, or whether it was Mosi. Similarly, every organization, whether it's a head clerk, whether it's a direct salesman, whether it's a secretary, whether it's a store assistant, each person has a role to play. And that is one thing very clearly brought out by the film Sholay. Do not underestimate opponents. Sometimes when we are market leaders, we believe this is a small competitor, they cannot compete with us. They are not relevant for us. We do not consider them in the competition set. What is the big one blunder which made by Gabbar Singh at the end of the movie? What does he say? He says, Thakur, tum mujhse kya ladoge? Tumhare to haath hi nahi hai. And that proved to be his nemesis. So one big learning is never underestimate your opponent. Next point is non-verbal clues speak more than words. If you see in the movie, whenever the camera pans upon Thakur Baldev Singh, his face, his expressions convey much more. Whenever the camera pans upon Radha, which is Jaya Bahaduri, she conveys much more. So sometimes in organizations it is important that we just don't look for verbal clues. We also look at non-verbal clues, which sometimes are much more important and not to be missed. In these corporate tense environments, fun and laughter have gone out of the window. What does this movie show? A very tense movie of revenge, killing, action, but it was interspersed with laughter, enjoyment. Remember the scenes of the movie? Angrezon ke Zamane ke jailer, Asrani, or Surma Bhopali as Jagdeep. These characters bring life to it. So one thing we need to learn in organizations that we need to also laugh and enjoy and just not get bogged down. We need to also debottle ourselves. That's a learning from Sholay. Use emotional pitch where sometimes logic does not work. We believe everything is logic, everything is system, processes. There is emotion also to it. There is emotional connect with your customer, emotional connect with your employee, emotional connect with your vendors. Remember the Tenki wala scene of Dharmender in Sholay? When he has to convince Mosi that Basanti has to be married to him. He uses emotional pitch. गांव वालों मैं आ रहा हूं. That was the pitch. I'm not saying you to copy that, but that's the idea. Also use emotional pitch when it is required. The other thing is company long-term objectives should take precedence over short-term gains or short-term losses. Sometimes you look at too short-term. This is what is in it for me. What will I gain? What will the team gain? Look at in this movie the very, very tense scene where Rahim Chacha loses his son to the killers of Gabbar. And villagers are saying that हम चाहेंगे जय और वीरू इस गांव से चले जाएं क्योंकि उसके कारण मौत का तांडव शुरू हो गया है. And what does Rahim Chacha say? He says, बेटा मैंने खोया है लेकिन मैं चाहूंगा ये दोनों इस गांव में रहें और इस गांव की रक्षा करें. Clear case of long-term objectives, interest taking precedence over losses, which were not short-term or which were big losses for him, Rahim Chacha, in the movie. Another point is review, focused review and consequence management. Sometimes, when reviews go on for hours, days, we want to take action, we dither over it. If you remember the scene of Sholay when Gabbar makes his entry, he says, if you look at his review mechanism is very focused and his consequence management is fast. कितने आदमी थे? 2. तुम कितने थे? 3. फिर भी वापस आ गए. सजा जरूर मिलेगी. So focused review and consequence management. I'm not saying that we have to shoot your subordinates who don't do their job like what is the film, but consequence management, depending on the task, has to be stronger. That's an important point which we need to do. And last but not the least, strike when the iron is hot. For every action, there has to be a right occasion. When does Gabbar Singh plan to attack in the village? He knows Holi is the time when all the villagers, all the persons will be there celebrating, and that's the time when he can make maximum impact. So strike when the iron is hot. So these are top lessons or management gyans from Sholay, which I think are still relevant, or I would say more relevant in the corporate world. That's all from Arun Malhotra, signing off.